Israel is clearly fighting a multi-front war at this point. So while the operation on the ground continues against Hezbollah, but it's the attack on Lebanese territory that's also escalating. Thick smoke blanketing Lebanese sky. Look at that, the different visuals that you see on your screen, because Israel continues with the rocket strikes and ground offensive. South Lebanon is also where the focus has been, but moving to the northern territory also of Lebanon. Israeli aircraft targeted what clearly looked like a residential apartment in the vicinity of the Bedawi camp. This was a Palestinian camp, and there have been some casualties reported too. Israeli ground operations in southern Lebanon this week followed 2 weeks of intensive airstrikes and bombardment. Now, Israel claims that it has killed over 250 Hezbollah members, including top commanders. And many are wondering, with no clarity yet, if Hashim Safiuddin, who's going to be the second in command of Hezbollah, is also one of those targeted in these Israeli strikes. Iran has come in. Ali Khamenei has issued a warning to Israel, saying if Israel does not take a step back, its energy plants and facilities will also be targeted. So then the question is, what will be the next move of Israel? Look at the satellite images that we've accessed. It does show that Iran has moved some of the tankers and oil vessels from the oil rigs. Hezbollah, meanwhile, has released a video of Israeli posts targeted in Palestine.
I am here today reporting from southern Israel. 2 days before, Israel is marking the anniversary of Hamas's Massacre, October 7 massacre of 1,200 people and kidnapping of 251. I have with me here Avida Bahar, a survivor of that massacre who lost his son, his wife and his leg in Hamas's October 7 massacre in Kibbutz Be'eri. Avida, why did you decide to come today?
Today we're riding for a people not with us anymore. And we have to remember them, and we have to riding for them. So I think that this is our mission. They stay with wishes, and we do it. It's about community, it's about bicycle, it's about people. So we remember them, and we go forward to Be'eri right now.
And I want to get you now a live update. Joining me on the ground from Israel, which remember will play a big role on the next step on what will happen in this war. Gaurav Sawant, our managing editor, is back there on the ground. Gaurav, what is the plan of action do you think Israel has? Because Iran's threat are getting serious by the day.
Right now, I'm in Haifa, and Haifa is one of those parts of northern Israel from where the offensive is being guided into southern Lebanon. Right behind me is the Haifa Bay, and beyond the bay, that's Lebanon that you see. On a clear day, you can actually see and you can hear, the rockets that go off, the missiles that either come in, or right now, the airstrikes that are happening on the other side. And very, very intense airstrikes from Israel. Intense airstrikes and artillery strikes as additional forces get up to move into southern Lebanon. Israel moving into southern Lebanon is extremely, extremely important to clear out that patch in southern Lebanon, which is controlled by the Hezbollah. It's about a 30-kilometer by 8-kilometer patch that Israel wants to clear in some patches to ensure that the Hezbollah doesn't remain a threat to northern Israel, where I am, and of course a couple of kilometers down the road from here till the northernmost tip of Israel. That is what Israel wants to completely clear out. Point one. Point two, to ensure that Hezbollah is not a threat, what are they doing? They're following a multi-pronged offensive. Strategy one, decimate Hezbollah strongholds from the sky. Strategy two, use artillery to decimate Hezbollah strongholds, their weapons depots. Use precision-guided munition, both from air and from artillery. Have their loiter munition. Also have their drones, unmanned combat aerial vehicles that keep loitering about 36,000 feet in the sky. The moment it's required, the moment they spot Hezbollah, either their movement or movement of men and material, you target them. Three, the underground maze of tunnels that Hezbollah has in this area, and a huge cross-section of tunnels, as we've been showing our viewers on India Today. Some of those tunnels wide enough for trucks to move in, some of them with narrow rail tracks for missiles and artillery and rockets to be moved as close to the border as possible to target northern Israel, where you and I have been, talking about 70,000 people being forced to have been displaced from here. Israel's main effort is to ensure these people come back, and the only way they can come back is if Hezbollah is moved back, and there's a buffer zone of at least 30 kilometers that is created. So that is Israel's strategy. They do not want to occupy that part of Lebanon. They only want a buffer zone, and the Lebanese army or the United Nations interim force, UNIFIL, to move into that buffer zone. Will that happen? That's easier said than done, but that's the effort. That's the one prong of their attack. The second prong of that attack, where our colleague was reporting from southern part, Hamas has targeted Israel very recently. In fact, airstrikes against Hamas have just been carried out a couple of days ago. And that is very intense. And the third leg, of course, is targeting Iran, which is 2,000 odd kilometers away. And that is still some time away, we are told.
But clearly, is that eventuality that we are looking at, because this is the kind of threat that is coming from Iran. Gaurav, please stay on with me only if it's comfortable and convenient to you. Emily Bodbol is also joining me. Emily, we've been running your reports consistently. If I'm correct, are you at the kibbutz Kfar Aza? This was also where about a year ago the target had happened. A lot of civilians lost their life, if I'm correct. What is the situation? It's going to be a year since then.
Thank you so much. Yes, behind me is actually Gaza. I am right now 1.5 kilometers from Gaza in Kibbutz Kfar Aza, where 64 people were murdered by Hamas nearly a year ago. On October 7, we will mark a year since the massacre this Monday. 18 people were kidnapped. Many have since returned. 5 remain at the moment in the tunnel of Gaza. I am here today with the family of Nadav and Yam Goldstein, who were murdered while the rest of the family was kidnapped. They have since returned to Israel. I am here with a group that is called, with a professional cycling team of Israel that is called Israel Premier Tech. And because we are entering a time where there will be more and more commemoration for Hamas's October 7 massacre of 1200, I am here with them to commemorate 10 people who went out that morning. They went out cycling with their bicycle. Hamas ambushed them, murdered them, burned them, and people are here, their families are here in Kfar Aza and all over, to be honest, the Gaza border. In Kibbutz Be'eri, we will be today as well. We were just in Mefalsim, in Tomat Mefalsim as well, where people were murdered on that day. Today, tomorrow, Monday, will be many different ceremony and commemoration for those people who were killed nearly a year ago.
Emily, please stay on with me. Gaurav, I come to you on this. You've also been to the same locations when you were reporting. Basically, this is the point, and this was the time when this whole war escalated, even though conflict has been for years.
You're absolutely right. Last year on the 8th of October onwards, we were reporting from the southernmost part of Israel, where our colleague is right now. Emily is right. Kafar Be'eri, that Rhyme Festival. We were all reporting from there all, through October 2023. Come October 2024, we're on the northernmost part of Israel. We're in Haifa, and now we are hoping to get to places like Metula, which are directly in the line of rocket fire, which are targeted virtually every day by Hezbollah. And even as you heard that artillery round go off behind us. Now that artillery round is more, when an occasional artillery round goes off, that occasional artillery round is just to kind of figure out if the artillery round is falling at the right place. These are 155 howitzers that the Israeli army very extensively uses. The artillery OP officer or the observation post officer then gives directions to whether that artillery shell is falling in the right direction, then another shell, and the moment they realize that they're hitting the right target, that's when the barrage goes off. So that's what Israeli army is doing right now, relentlessly pounding Hezbollah strongholds in southern Lebanon. Their airstrikes are going on even in the southern part of Beirut, in the Dahiyeh area, where, you were talking about Hashim Saifuddin, the likely new leader. Apparently, he too has been targeted. Whether killed or injured, we still do not know.
Okay.
And now there are some strikes that have taken place in the northern part of Lebanon, which is where some of the other terrorists are also being targeted. So this is where Israel is following a multi-pronged strategy to cut off the hands of Iran-backed militia or terrorists whether it's Hamas, Hezbollah, the Americans are targeting the Houthis in Yemen. The Americans have carried out a series of missile strikes against the Houthis. So that's to ensure.
Gaurav, you know what I find very interesting in what you're telling us, we see the aftermath in Lebanon, but we don't see it in Israel as much, thankfully, also because we see how Israel has prepared a certain system to, while it is taking these strikes ahead, its own people, its civilians are not impacted, and that says a lot. Emily, I'll take that point to you. Tell us what happens? You know, people who are sitting in other nations, and when there are missiles coming toward Israel, what happens? How do people save themselves? Because it looks like there's an established system that Israel has done and planned over the years.
Look, when Iran launched over 180 ballistic missiles earlier this week at Israel, millions of Israelis ran to shelter where we all spent, including me, nearly 1 hour as missiles were, raining all around us. There's a coalition, an accord in addition to the Israeli Air Force who protected its civilians. There was a coalition with the United States, of which the United Kingdom, we know, was part of, that allowed Israelis to, continue after spending time in the shelter with their lives as usual. Right now, as we're approaching 2 days away from 1 year since Hamas's October 7 massacre, Israelis are busy remembering, commemorating the people that were killed on October 7. They are also busy calling for the release
clearly
of
it looks like that big escalation has also happened, and you're all on the ground, and thank you for giving us this coverage.